All right, did I miss something here? I just want to give you a rundown of stories. By the way, we have Governor Scott Walker, former Governor Scott Walker, on with us in about 30 minutes, and there's some really interesting things happening in Wisconsin. The Supreme Court just overturned their stay-at-home order, saying that they don't have a right to do that. The state's on fire now because, strangely, what's weird is, anybody notice this? Democrats are all for shutting things down for as long as possible, and Republicans are all for opening things up. When did this become how did this become a partisan issue? Can we just engage our own brains? Is there really no one on either side that it wants to go the other direction? That's just bizarre to me. Let me take you first. And our first stop goes to Michigan, to Owasso. Now, do you remember the barber that we had on, the 77-year-old guy? He was fantastic. His name is Carl Mankey. And he was like, I'm not trying to make a statement here. I couldn't get the unemployment. I couldn't get the PPP. I've had my barbershop forever. I am keeping safe distancing, 6 feet apart. I've taken a couple of the chairs out. So, you can't be close to each other. I'm wearing a mask and gloves and blah, 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 blah. And he said, I sanitize every chair after every haircut. Well, they were going to throw the book at him, and they threatened him with jail if he didn't stop. Then the state police said, we're not going to arrest him. You tell us to arrest him, we're not going to arrest him. Well, now the Governor Whitmer, and the Attorney General have had the Michigan, barbershop quartet cancel his license. They've suspended his license so he can't operate his business. They took his livelihood away from him. Then they said if he does cut hair, it'll be a $1,000 fine every single day, and he is subject to court proceedings that could put him into jail for a year. This is insane. When did we decide this? Who are these people? That we said we were going to flatten the curve. The idea was to make sure that our hospitals and our doctors and our nurses weren't overwhelmed. It was not to make sure no one got sick. I don't know if you know this, but there is no natural right not to get sick. Animals get sick and die. Humans get sick and die. It's not a pleasant thing. It makes me cry every time, a Disney animal dies in a movie. It makes me cry. But it's natural. We don't have a natural right not to get sick. We have a responsibility to do everything we can to not spread a disease, but we don't have a cure for cancer. We don't have a cure for the common cold. We don't have a cure for the flu. We don't have a cure for AIDS. What do you mean? Now we have to wait until we have a cure or a vaccine? That's insane. It's a virus. Now, in Pennsylvania, flag makers are not allowed to ship U.S. flags for Memorial Day. Everybody puts flags on veterans' graves on Memorial Day. They're not allowed, this company in Pennsylvania, not allowed to ship them. The Boy Scouts now also, they put American flags on the graves for Memorial Day. They've now been told, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs, that all public events at military ceremonies are canceled, and the Boy Scouts can't put flags on the grave. When did this become so dangerous that none of us could be outside? Los Angeles has now said that they are going to have the stay-at-home orders continuing until August. And as if that's not enough, the mayor of Los Angeles said the city has never been fully closed, but will never be completely opened until there is a cure for COVID-19. Jawohl, mein Führer. You know, what kills me is they let Elon Musk open up his factory. Of course they did. You think county officials are going to arrest the guy that is employing all of those workers? See, America, this is what you forget. You have the ultimate power. You didn't elect these offices to be able to make laws. These are not laws. Laws have to be passed, and they have to be passed with the people's consent. These are not laws. We're not moving beyond COVID-19. We're learning to live with it, said the mayor of Los Angeles. It's important not to overreact. Really? You don't think closing Los Angeles until August is that? You don't think that's overreacting? You don't think saying we'll never be completely open until there's a cure for COVID-19 is not overreacting? Are you kidding me? By the way, so you know, a WHO official. So now if I said this, which I did in January, now I guess I won't be banned by Facebook for saying it because the WHO official has finally come out and said it. This virus may never go away. Well, no crap, Sherlock. You think? All that takes is just a couple of brain cells knocking around. I mean, how many brain cells do I have left? I got like 4, and they're like, I don't know, I'm bumping into you. You know what? I bet this virus will be with us forever, like the flu. We get a strain of the 1918 Spanish flu every single year. I told you back in January, this virus isn't going to go away. This is going to be added on top of the deaths of the flu. You're going to get this. Everyone eventually is going to get this. Good God, you'd think that this was Ebola. I would understand this kind of a crackdown if it was Ebola. This is not Ebola. Meanwhile, California State University system has already decided that they're not going to have in-person classes in the fall. Based on what? Based on what science? Cops in Brooklyn have now arrested a rabbi for letting his kids, ages 8, 11, and 2, walk to the store. So wait, hold it just a second. They arrested the rabbi for allowing his 11-year-old and his 8-year-old to take care of their little brother or sister who is 2 and walk to the store. I know I did that when I was a kid. Oh, but it wasn't as dangerous. Yes, it was. You're more safe today than when I was a kid. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, that's too dangerous. An 11-year-old? Oh, my gosh. Do you know that George Washington went out at 13 without a gun into the wilderness to be able to survey land? He went without a gun. There were bears. There were mean deer because they knew what Disney was going to do to Bambi's mom. He was 13 and he was surveying on his own. Good God, you can't have your 11-year-old walk to the store? No, they're little babies. No, they're not. Stop treating our kids like they're babies. And stop treating our kids like they are the ones that are targeted by COVID-19. That number is almost 0. Why are we keeping them home from school? Meanwhile, in Seattle, a port policeman has now been threatened with termination for asking whether law enforcement around the country is doing the right thing enforcing non-constitutional government. Now, what is happening is this guy asked for permission. He posted something and everybody was fine with it until it went viral. And then the higher ups were like, oh, I don't know. This is making us look bad. He wasn't saying anything about any specific police department or the Seattle Police Department. He said, I was seeing reports from all over the country of police departments making decisions to arrest people for haircuts. That's not constitutional, and we have a responsibility. Well, he's being terminated. He's also going to be on the program today. Meanwhile, the left, they're closing us down, but boy, they're making sure that we have a new normal when we come back. De Blasio now has announced 12 more miles of New York street closures. They're closing the streets in Manhattan. You don't care about this because you don't live in Manhattan. I don't care about this, but I used to live in Manhattan, and it is a draconian state when it wants to be. Bloomberg was doing this. He wanted to close down a couple of the streets. There are only like 7 streets in New York and Manhattan. You can't close them, okay? People need to get around. It's a grid. It's an island. You start closing things down and everything bogs down. So Bloomberg wanted to do this. The people voted against it. Bloomberg did it anyway. Now de Blasio, at this time of crisis, never let a crisis go to waste. Now, when everybody goes back, there'll be 12 more miles of streets that have been closed so everybody could ride their bike. Isn't that great? By the way, everybody should work from home. You know, in fact, what we should do is in New York City, we should keep this going as long as we can. And people should really consider working at home. Hey, de Blasio, where are you going to get your tax money? Because here's the problem. Manhattan is going to be facing a massive overstock of office space. Because as people are staying home and people are saying, you know what, just work from home from here on out. What happens to all those big empty office buildings, de Blasio? And where do you get your tax dollars, you dope? Meanwhile, Facebook is now deleting Michigan anti-quarantine group. That's what they're now called, the anti-quarantine. They are their name, Michigananders? People from Michigan. Michiganders?
Michiganders.
Is that what it is, too?
Michiganders? Mm-hmm.
That's a dumb... That's stupid. You're a person from Michigan. Anyway, Michiganders against excessive quarantine. Now, they had 380,000 members since the outbreak. Facebook has decided, we're going to ban them. We're going to ban them. What's your reason? What's your reason? The governor was asked, do you have any evidence that this is doing any harm to people? Well, they're not wearing masks. Again, do you have any evidence? It's just like Wisconsin. You know, they're freaking out because people want to go to work, and the Supreme Court just said, no, you can't make those laws. You can't enforce it. And now the state is freaking out. Everybody's going to get sick. Weren't you the state that at the height of the COVID virus scare, you had elections, and we now know nothing happened? There was no spike because of it? What's going on? And Facebook, I'd like to know, if I tweeted the things that the WHO and other experts told us 2 or 3 months ago, would I now be removed from Facebook and banned? Would you delete my tweet? Because I've been saying things that the WHO is now starting to say, and you said that that was a dangerous thing to say. But now that they're saying it, if I decided just for craps and giggles to go back and tweet the things that they were saying, would I be banned again? This is insane. And America, you need to understand. If you watched the show last night, you know the Republic is in danger from what the media is doing. We are in grave, grave danger. We'll have more on that in a second. But you have to understand one thing. The Bill of Rights is no good. It's worthless if you can't use them and if you don't have a government that protects them.